Well, good afternoon. Welcome and thanks for joining us today for our new knowledge session. My name is Sandy Ratliff. I'm with Virginia Community Capital. If you're not familiar with us, we're a community development financial institution providing lending, investing, and community innovation services in Virginia. We are happy to be a partner in this program with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and the town of Abingdon to present this business and organizational skill development program. This started in 2014 to support the Washington County Business Challenge competitors, and it's become one of the oldest running business and training programs in Virginia, and we're very proud of that. Before we get started and I turn it over to our presenters, I want to note that in order to keep the webinar flowing and to stay within our 1 hour time goal, we have muted everyone. However, we do want to hear from you. So if you have a question for our panelists today, please post those in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we will address those at the end. I am so happy to have our panelists today. We're talking about my favorite subject is marketing. And I think we have two of the tops in the region with us today. First is our good friend Josh Mancuso with Mancuso Entertainment. He's an actor, director, and storyteller, and I consider him a friend of not only myself, but the New Knowledge Program, who's been supporting this initiative for the last several years. And joining him today is Leighton Hart, with founder of Market Street Media. And I think each will bring a wealth of marketing experience. And I'm going to turn it over to Josh. You can tell a little bit more about yourself and Leighton, and then I suspect we're all going to be entertained today, but I think we're going to leave hopefully with a number of tidbits that we're going to be able to use in our organization and business. So Josh, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Good to see you and Kathy and all the folks up there in Virginia. I'm seeing more people signing on here. That's great. Recognize a few names over there in the participants list. Very cool. So for those of you that have not been in one of my webinars before, entertaining is probably a word that you could use. Who knows what might happen, but it's going to be fun. My name is Josh Mancuso, and I run a company called Mancuso Entertainment. And so we've done a lot of video production, a lot of video marketing for clients all around Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, and even nationally across the country, and been fortunate to be able to make a living telling stories and making videos, and have done a lot of videos even this year with COVID. And I think that for me, and this is something that maybe we'll talk about a little bit, but for me, right when COVID first hit, I saw a dip for about 2 weeks in work, because I think there was sort of this panic of, oh, what do we do? And so everybody kind of just tightened up, and it was like, okay, I got some phone calls like, hey, we're not sure what's going on. We're not going to be doing videos. And then a few weeks passed, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, we need videos because we can't do anything live. And so it became so for me, the silver lining is that video work has been very prevalent. And it was a race through October, a race to get footage before the leaves fell off this year. Everybody wanted videos before the leaves were gone. So it's been great for me. Just for those of you that are regularly joining me for these webinars, I'm really shifting a lot of my work away from marketing and more into filmmaking and acting. That's really my heartbeat and kind of where my future lies. And so I'm doing less of the marketing side of things, less social media work. And so that's why today I wanted to make sure that you got some info from some of the best. A great friend of mine, Leighton Hart, he runs Market Street Media. And I'm going to turn it over to him in just a second. I will say that I would love for you all to, just in support of my efforts, to make sure you're following my Facebook page and my Instagram page, where I'm releasing content pretty often. Usually they're comical videos that will hopefully make you laugh. I know I made Kathy laugh this morning. So please check those out. A lot of what I'm doing is really focused on acting and making movies. So, but I'll never cease my love for marketing in some way. So I'm excited. The first thing that I'm going to say really quick, and I'll let Leighton start talking, is I'm sure that the pandemic has affected everybody in different ways. But one thing that we were discussing the other day was that the need to have a real presence on digital platforms has grown exponentially, right? So the old way of doing business, or the way that we're used to doing business, handshaking and meeting and all the things, we're now doing Zooms, and we're doing other things. So ways to produce more digital content and service your clients digitally and have them pay for it is going to be, I think, a key going forward. Even when this is, quote, over and we're back to some sense of normalcy, that's still going to be the case. The things are shifting, and hopefully we'll all be back at events and conferences and things like that again. But in the meantime, this is still a reality. So, yeah, I'm going to let Leighton take over. Leighton, feel free to talk about Market Street Media. You'll do a much better job than I will, but folks know that Leighton knows his stuff, and he's got some great things to share. So, Leighton, thanks for joining me today, man.
It's an honor. Thank you so much. And it's really nice to meet everybody here. How do I? Okay. Yeah, just really nice to meet everybody here and have this opportunity. I'm looking at the attendees, and yeah, I recognize some names that I know. So hello to my friends who are in attendance. It's really fun to be here. If you're willing, and there is a chat feature down below. I would love just to know a little bit more about what you all do. So if you're willing, in that chat feature, if you could jump in and just tell me what you do, because Josh knows you, he's known y'all for a long time, but I'm new, and I just love meeting people and knowing what you do. So now I'll tell you who I am and what I do. My name is Leighton Hart. I have a company in Johnson City. I'm sitting in Johnson City. We serve people all over, called Market Street Media. And Market Street Media started as a podcast production studio and then has grown from there. So started looking at helping people produce podcasts and take some of the tech hassle and behind the scenes hassle out of producing podcasts, because we just kept running into people who were like, man, I want to start a podcast for my business, get the word out, interview people, network with people, but I just don't know how to do it. And, I put two and two together. I was like, oh, I know how to do it. And I've got a place you can come and do it. So we've set up this place where you can come in, sit down, record your podcast, and then get up and walk out. And we handle the rest. And so you get to do the fun part, and we do the work behind the scenes. And it's, for us, it's a lot of fun, because it's what we like doing. From there, we've grown into some of the other services that are related, are marketing services for small businesses, social media for small businesses. And then we also, similar to this, I think my passion is teaching and sharing ideas and sharing things with people. And so we very regularly have webinars and courses on marketing, small business, social media. In fact, Josh was teamed up with us to do one on how to stop the scroll. So when people are scrolling through social media, how do you get them to stop and watch a video and pay attention to your social media? And so we are constantly doing things like that to share information with you. So today, I think we want to talk about how we market, and what we need to be thinking about in the era of COVID, and then in life after COVID, because we'll get there someday. But how does what we're living through change the way we market? And I will tell you right here at the top is that I've got a resource for you. I'm going to take this whole outline that I'm sharing today and some links to some of the software and other tools and put them in a document, and you can just come get that. So in case you're not in a spot where you can take notes or anything like that today, you can just go to marketstreet.media/class. So marketstreet.media/class, and just let us know you want that resource, and we'll shoot it to you. No problem. Happy to share that with you. A lot of people learn in different ways. So if having something in front of you is helpful, that's for you. So let's get into it. So the world we live in now, the COVID era, and we'll be moving into the post-COVID era at some point, has changed a lot of things about running and marketing your business. I'm going to look up here. If you see me looking up here to my left, that's where my outline is on a whiteboard up there. So that's why I'm doing that. So a couple big picture themes of where we are right now. One would be is that as people who are running businesses, advocating for causes, creating relationships and managing relationships with people, the first thing is we have to acknowledge the moment that we're in. So if we're trying to pretend that life isn't just really bizarre right now and everything has changed, if we're trying to pretend like that's not the case, it's really, that's not a position of integrity, right? That's not in line with what reality really is. So one of the things we have to do is just acknowledge the moment that we're in, that it's challenging, that it's there are new opportunities for us because of this. There are things that aren't available to us right now, but we do just kind of have to acknowledge the moment that we're in. Second thing that I think customers and our donors and the people that we connect and have relationships with is they want us to be transparent about the situation we're in. So if, I know when I use a small business or a restaurant or something, and they've had to shut down or alter their practices because of COVID, or they've got a sick employee or something like that. I prefer that you are open with me about what's going on rather than trying to sweep things under the rug or not be transparent about what's going on, because we're all trying to navigate something that nobody's ever done before. So I think people in this situation value transparency because we're all of us are trying to make decisions about, we have extended family members who we need to, keep safe. And so the more information we have about the situation you're in, the better decisions we can make. So be transparent about your situation. And the third thing that I would remind everyone about this situation that we're in, and you know it, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I keep hearing it from different people, is that stress shows up in different ways. And so I've heard from more people who have just been randomly chewed out by someone, unexpected. This person has been a customer of mine forever, and the kindest person, but really they gave me an earful today. We're all in a new situation and we're all stressed out, and that shows up in different ways for people. So I think we kind of have to give people a little grace too and acknowledge where we are. Okay. So what I want to do, Josh, anything to add to that?
Not really. I think you hit it. I think acknowledging where we're at, and then the transparency and honesty part is really big for people right now. I think trust is an issue throughout the pandemic and throughout what is now a political season as well. So like trust is huge for people when you're marketing to them. They just want to be able to trust you and to know you have their best interest at hand, not just your own, not just selling to them. Yeah.
Appreciate that. We talk a lot in the training that we do and one-on-one with our clients about kind of that know, like, and trust continuum. That's how you make and create a customer, a donor, an advocate. Is they have to know you, they have to get to know you, they have to learn to like you. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, and then they have to trust you. And once they trust you, then you've got them. And those are things you constantly have to be revealing information about yourself and being personable and living up to your promises and things like that. So know, like, and trust. Now let's talk about some tactics and some accompanying case studies. So I want to share three main things with you, tactics or things that you can think about applying in your business. But then rather than just keeping it academic, I wanted to have some real life case studies, like to show you this actually works, or this is really a thing that happens for people. So let me start with one. And the first tactic I would say is that many of us, and maybe all of us, could benefit from creating and sharing more content. I think Josh alluded to that, that the more digital content that we can create and share with people, it gives people more opportunities to interact with us. And what I tell people in the courses that we teach is that the algorithms, if you're on social media, if you're on search engines, if you're publishing regularly, the algorithms, the systems behind the scenes that run Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all these things, they're working against you. Like, they're actively hiding your content. So I like to think that if I have 100 people that have come and followed the Market Street Media Facebook page and said, hey, I want to get updates from Market Street Media, that when I post something, it will show it to all 100 people. That's the way it should work, right? unfortunately, it's not the way it works. So on average, if 100 people say, hey, show me stuff, Facebook will show it to 6.5% of those people. So, a handful, not even a room full of people out of that big auditorium of people who want to see your stuff are seeing that. What that means is that we have to publish a lot, and we have to publish in a lot of different varieties if we wanted to get to be seen, or we have to pay to have it promoted. And a lot of us are in a spot where we just kind of want to bootstrap and not have to invest a whole lot of money out of our pockets to have this stuff seen. So that's the benefit of, or the cause, that would drive us to need to create more content and share it in more places. So, and there are tools that can help you do that. So I know saying creating and sharing more content thinks, oh, that's just a lot more work to do. But there are apps, there are websites, there's software that makes this a whole lot easier. And Josh, I want you to chime in on this too. But some of the ones that we use and have a good experience with are apps like Hootsuite, which lets you go straight into one app and you can post to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn directly from one hub. So you're not spending all day. You can sit down in the morning, spend 20 or 30 minutes and have your whole day, maybe even the entire week, kind of programmed at once. So Hootsuite is one. And again, I'm going to consolidate all of this into a resource that you can come grab at marketstreet.media/class. So don't feel like you need to be, taking notes on this. We'll have it for you. So, oh, thank you. Drew just shared tools, Hootsuite. So Hootsuite is one tool. Buffer is a tool that's very similar to Hootsuite, but Buffer lets you build like this big queue or this big stack of content of, updates to Facebook and Twitter and all these places that they will kind of share for you automatically on a schedule. So you can just fill that queue, fill that stack, and go do your work, go talk to your customers, go fulfill orders, go talk to your donors, talk with your employees, and your social media is running in the background. All you have to do is fill that stack up with information and photos and all that stuff every now and then. Love Buffer. And then, Josh works in the video realm. We publish a lot of video here on our YouTube channel and on Facebook Live. To be in a lot of places at once, you can use a tool called Restream. Live streaming is very valuable. And the reason that you see people going live often is that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and these places, they reward you for doing live video. And so they will push you higher up in the rankings, put you in front of more eyeballs if you're doing live video as opposed to video that you record and then publish later. So if you see people going live all the time, it's because, well, we want to be in front of you, but also we want to benefit from that little reward that Facebook throws in and Instagram and Twitter for doing a live video. Restream is a tool that lets you click go live once and you're immediately live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Twitch is one. So multiple platforms at once. Again, as much as we can do for very low cost to leverage your time and your presence as much as possible. I think that just makes a lot of sense right now. If you can be in multiple places at once, I think it gives you a lot of leverage. Josh, what would you add to that?
I wouldn't add much, honestly. I've had experience with both Hootsuite and Buffer. They're kind of depending on what you're wanting out of it. If you want that stack of content, definitely Buffer was good when I was doing that. Hootsuite is great to kind of have those multiple platforms going at one time. Yeah, but lives, I think people underestimate lives. I'm really glad you talked about Facebook Live and using Restream. I really feel like these types of tools can, you put all these tools together and it's like a part-time person, I mean, you don't have to have somebody doing all these things and you have tools that can do them for you. So it takes a little bit of time to get to know each of these tools and how they operate, but you spend a little time in it and you'll become a Facebook Live, connoisseur eventually. So I think Facebook Lives are great. Instagram Lives, I think I would advocate for Instagram Live as well. I don't think they go through Restream yet, but I bet they will hopefully at some point.
Yeah. I'd be curious just in the topic of live video can be very intimidating to people. being in front of a camera. Live video can be even more intimidating to people because they think, what if I mess up or, say something wrong? It's not the end of the world. Like, it makes you human. It's that know, like, and trust factor. But I would be curious in the chat if you would let us know, how do you feel about live video? Does that make you nervous? Does that intimidate you? Tell me what you think about live video. There's no right or wrong answers. Like, it's, again, no right or wrong answers. Just curious what you think about live video.
I will say this really quick, that one benefit of live video is that you can't redo it. Now you might say,
Yep.
that's not a benefit. That's awful. I want to be able to redo it. But if you're going live, it just forces you to just do it. Like, you have to do it then, because I've noticed myself, if I'm recording something, I might do it several times. I'm like, oh, I like the way I looked in that one. Oh, I didn't say that right. But when you do it live, you just have to do it. And it'll force you just to start making video. So, and you'll be surprised that once you're live, there's that first 10 seconds of like, oh my gosh, like when you step up to a podium live to talk to somebody, you're like, oh boy, here I am. And then after a little bit, you're fine. And you're like, okay, I'm good. Live is the same way.
Yep. Totally agree. And that's why if you all go to our YouTube page, we have a lot of videos there. And in the last probably 2 months, I've bailed from the idea of producing those ahead of time. And what I do is I just click live and go, because like Josh said, if I try to do it, make it perfect and all that stuff, then I get hung up. And 3 hours later, I'm like, oh, forget it. So usually I just click live and go. It's not perfect, but it gets the message across. So, and you get better. Okay. So what I wanted to wrap up this point on producing more content, and I see some of you are in the chat saying live video is a little intimidating. Totally understand. I appreciate that very much. And what I would tell you is that makes you normal. Like, that is far more common than you realize. So I appreciate you sharing that. I was having this conversation about producing more content at the beginning of the year with a guy who's actually now a client of our podcast studio. He owns a gym in town, and he was saying, this year I'm going to try to produce a lot more content, more photos on Instagram. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm just going to post a lot more stuff. And when you start to do this stuff, there's like some success at the beginning. You get more likes and you get more followers. And then there's this dip where you're like, I'm out here in the wilderness. Nothing is happening. Why am I doing this? I'm spinning my wheels. So last Friday, he said, you're never going to believe what happened. I got a call out of the blue from somebody I've never met. This guy's a member at another gym. And he said, I've been seeing everything you've posted on Instagram. I've listened to every podcast that you've published, and I love what you're doing. So what I want to do is I want to write you a check for an entire year's membership, and I want to bring it to your office, later today. Like, a check for a year's membership is like the highest ticket thing you can buy at this gym. And this guy did it because he saw, all the great content that my client was putting out. So it can feel like you're in the wilderness when you're publishing stuff and you really don't know if it's paying off. I will tell you, it will pay off. So get more stuff out there. So if you have any questions about that, drop it in the Q&A, drop it in the chat, and we'll come back to that at the end. I want to get to my second point and the second case study too. And I'm glad my friend Drew Bedard is on here too, because he can he helped give me some information on this one too to shape this case study. So the second thing that I would encourage you to do, and that if you look around at similar businesses or the businesses that you patronize and use, what you are seeing and what you will continue to see is the acceleration of this move to digital, to more things being touchless, contactless, online. That is just moving a whole lot faster because, we may be in a spot right now where it's not safe for our health to be in front of each other right now. So what that looks like is you're seeing it pop up in like mobile ordering at restaurants and other places, even places where any place where you can pick up a product locally. There's more people are moving to have a mobile order, a mobile purchase option. One way I'm really seeing it is in e-signatures of documents. I had a business that I sold earlier this year. I was a financial planner for many, many years and transitioned out of that business, sold that to an advisor in Knoxville. And we transitioned the entire book of business without a single signature on paper. So he was able to reach out and contact every one of my clients and get an e-signature. And so during this time where everybody's kind of locked up and locked down, he was able to start creating relationships and smoothly transition relationships just with e-signatures. So DocuSign, things like that, I think you'll find becoming more and more popular. And it may be helpful for you to explore what you can do with those in your business. Think about check-in and onboarding processes. So if you're a business where there's a check-in, I know I took my son to the eye doctor the other day, and so they just sent us a link before we got there and said, "Hey, here's our online check-in. Just make sure you do all this stuff before you show up, and when you show up, call us." That way they're not coming out with a clipboard and that's extra contact, that's extra stuff that you're passing back and forth. And it's also just, we were able to do that in our time. It saved us, I filled that out while he was eating a cereal and saved us time at the doctor's office later. So that more, check-in, onboarding stuff, and then also check out procedures. So think about your business and when people are done and ready to walk out the door and close down that transaction, what can you do to make that touchless, contactless, make it even easier? I know every time we've been to a doctor's office or something recently, when you finish, they're just like, okay, we'll take care of it from here. And, there's not stopping at the counter and filing and all this stuff. It's just get up and walk out. So how can you apply that in your business and make the check out or the offboarding process digital and easier for your clients? Also think about auto renewals. If you have processes that contracts that regularly come up for renewal or shipments, supplies, orders, is it possible that you could auto renew those things so that you're not having to bring people in a lot, things like that. Here's the case study on this one. Here's how it actually plays out. Bristol Motor Speedway, Drew was kind enough to share this story with us. They had planned on going to a paperless ticket for a long time. It's been on their to-do list, and they had about a 2-year time frame that they wanted to implement this. And if you think about this, it's happening almost everywhere you go. So for years, airlines have been trying to push you to just get the app and your boarding passes on your app. Don't get paper, all that stuff. So it's happening everywhere. And Bristol said, we really want to do this. This is something we need to do, kind of longer term. So over the next couple of years, we'll transition our entire fan base to paperless tickets. Well, because of COVID and because of a couple of unique situations, Bristol ended up with kind of a bonus race this year, and a couple other situations. Bristol went from a 2-year time frame to moving their entire fan base to paper tickets in 4 weeks. From 2 years to 4 weeks. And those are kind of those operational challenges that a lot of us are dealing with, where we're going, all right, how do we make this happen? How do we make this work? So that second bullet point then is accelerate your move to digital. Accelerate that switch. And I'll pause there. And Josh, anything that you want to chime in on there?
Honestly, no, that's fantastic. And that's kind of what at the beginning, what I was thinking. And when we talked before, is just pushing towards everything being digital as much as you possibly can. Bristol's a great example because they're like, we're going to get there eventually anyways. And for you should be saying, hey, we need to get there eventually anyways. Use this as an opportunity to say, let's just get there faster. Let's get digital as quickly as we can and make a seamless digital experience for people. You get quicker, easier, and safer. Good stuff.
Yep. Fantastic. Okay. So that's number 2. Again, that'll be in that outline. If you want to come grab that outline for us, marketstreet.media/class. We'll have that on there for you. The third point I would have for you, and it kind of goes along with the first point of producing more content, is that there is power. There's ample opportunity and a lot of power in expanding your influence by hosting a show. And here's what I mean by that. You're showing up regularly for people, your face or your team, somebody from your business, your brand, your cause is showing up regularly on social media to talk about things, either to talk about what's going on with your business or to just take a topic of interest to your customers or your donors and tackle that. But there's power in having a show, a standing date and appointment somewhere online where people know that they can come see what's going on with your business, brand, nonprofit, cause, a church, whatever. Let me show you how that actually plays out in a real case study. So a guy named Craig Charles played football at ETSU. And when he was in college, he studied marketing and advertising and knew exactly what he was going to do when he got out of college. So he played professional football for a couple years. And then he knew when he got done, I'm coming back to Johnson City and I'm opening a barbershop downtown. So that's what he's done for years. But then that wasn't enough. He's a guy who I don't know anybody who works as hard as Craig does at creating opportunities for other people. And so he saw this opportunity to open a barber college. So here in Johnson City, there's Crown Cuts Academy, which is a place that trains up and coming master barbers. So the highest end of the profession, and it's people from all over. It's career changers. It's kids just out of high school. It's people who had a cosmetology license that want to kind of upgrade and offer more services. It's fascinating, all the people who come to Crown Cuts Academy. But what Craig did is Craig said, I want to start a podcast because I want potential students to have kind of be able to taste and see what we do before they walk in the door. And I want them to have tips on how they can be successful while they're in barber college, which is so cool. I mean, it'd be so easy for a business owner just to say, hey, they're paying, it actually, works out better for me if they take a long time to finish. But Craig's like, no, I want these students that are coming to succeed, and I want them to finish on time, and I want them to move out into the community and create careers and businesses. It's really cool. He really wants to invest in success for people. So Craig has a podcast. It's called Barber College Success. Like, that's as plain a title as you can possibly find. But he's sharing success tips on how to succeed in barber college. But what has happened is that Craig has become, it's the only barber college podcast in the nation, maybe in the world. It's a niche audience. Like, not a lot of people are going to listen to that, but to the people who do, it is high value, really important stuff. But what Craig does is he reaches out to people in his industry who aren't necessarily competitors. But so he's got a guy in South Dakota who has a barber college who he has had on his show, California, Texas, just all over. And so it's fantastic networking for him. He's creating these relationships. And also, as he does, he moves up in stature and industry influence and all that. So, just by producing a podcast every week, let me tell you what's happened for Craig. So he is the guy to know about barber college. If you want to start one, if you want to enroll in one, he's the guy to know. But it has positioned him as somebody who can lead a panel discussion, as somebody who can, talk to a camera, talk to a microphone. And since he started his podcast, Craig has been interviewed on NPR. He's been interviewed on CNN. He's been featured in Oprah magazine. And right now, because of connections he's made, Craig is helping find local barbers to participate in a Harvard study about the role of barbers in mental health. So the opportunities, you have no idea what opportunity is going to come to you by showing up regularly and letting people know what you do and that you're an expert in your field. So that's the case study on a real life case study from our area. Here's another one. Some of you may think, well, what I do isn't really very interesting or doesn't, set itself up. It's not flashy. It doesn't set itself up well for like entertainment or a show. There's a guy on YouTube. His name is Eric the Car Guy. That's his channel. Eric the Car Guy. Eric he's a fine looking gentleman. he's about average, he's not Brad Pitt, but he's fine. He shoots his videos on his iPhone in his auto shop. And so it's not a video that Josh Mancuso would produce for you. It's not super high quality, but he sets up his camera and he talks about, hey, here's what this part is and what it does. Here's how to fix this. Here's, it's all related to working on cars. Eric the Car Guy has 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. 1.5 million. There's nothing flashy about what he does. There's nothing flashy about the presentation. It's just him with his iPhone sharing what he knows and sharing what he does every day. He's got over a dozen videos that have more than 3 million views, which is wild. So, when Josh and I talk about views like that and subscriber counts like that, that is just mind blowing. And a lot of us think that we have to have something, a topic, or we have to be in a business or industry that's just really sexy and interesting. It's not the case. You just have to take what you know. There's an audience for you out there. Josh, what would you add to that?
Man, that is good stuff, Leighton. Golly, I love these case studies because, like Craig, I know Craig, and he's local here in Johnson City, and sorry, Craig, but there's not a whole lot of sexiness and excitement around a Barber College podcast. I mean, for the average person, like you said, but look at what he's been able to do, and I think the biggest thing that you just said is just showing up. Like if Craig had stopped showing up after a while, he's like, well, I'm just going to do this little podcast and just kind of see what happens. And he does a few episodes and it's like, whatever. And then he kind of just moves on. Like he would not be where he's at. And obviously all of his success he's having now is not just due to that podcast, but it's a big part of that, the connections he's made and the way he's been able to just, again, show up every week, produce the podcast, have the right people, as guests and keep doing it. And as far as podcasts go, I know a lot of our folks live in Bristol and Abington, but shameless plug for Leighton's group. Like I've recorded a couple of my podcasts in there, and you literally you walk in, you can see the mics right there behind Leighton. You can sit down, do a podcast, walk out. Leighton and his guys will help produce it for you, help you get it out there, get it out to the right channels and all that good stuff. So there's no reason why you couldn't do a podcast if you wanted to. And that's just one example. You could, the YouTube videos, YouTube shows, start your own thing, but consistency and doing it over and over. This is a lesson that I'm learning right now as Leighton and Drew are helping me with some of my content, is showing up and producing stuff regularly. That's the biggest thing. And you're going to get that audience and you're going to continue to build that. But there's no reason I talk to people all the time. They're like, yeah, I'd love to do a podcast, but I don't know how to do it or what to do. I hear that a lot. And that's what these guys are for. That's what Leighton's for is you could certainly drive from Bristol or Abington down to the studio if you wanted to, record 5 episodes in one session, head back up. And now you've got 5 weeks of podcast, or they can teach you how to do it, obviously just on your own, somewhere and give you the equipment you need. The mic I'm using was $30-$40. I don't know. It wasn't very much. Hopefully it sounds good, but overall, I think showing up, that's it. I love it. That's like what my coach told me in high school. Just show up to practice every day. You're going to get better. That's it.
I mean, there really is power. Like when we were talking about at the top, when we talked about know, like, and trust, being trustworthy isn't necessarily looking at people and saying, hey, you can trust me. It's demonstrating that I'm predictable. Like, every Friday I'm here doing my show, posting my YouTube show or whatever. It's people pick up on, learn to trust you and like you through commitment and consistency and things like that. So the other, not to beat the podcast thing to death too much, but this idea of having a show of some sort, in terms of building your influence and building a network, hosting the podcast that I produce, which is called Johnson City Living. It's just people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City, Tennessee a lovely place to live. That's the tagline. It has opened doors for me that I've met people and had people in my office that they wouldn't answer my phone call otherwise if I was, It's just a fantastic networking when you have a platform and you can share it with other people too. It doesn't, it doesn't take anything away from you to create a platform and then share it with somebody else. It helps them without hurting you at all. It's a great thing to do. Okay. I wanted to keep it informative, but also relatively brief so that we would have some time. And I wanted to include those case studies too, to show you that there's like real life application of this stuff. I do want to dive into the chat and Q&A to see if we can be helpful here. So bear with me while I kind of flip through these comments here.
Yeah, while you're looking there, Leighton, I'm just going to chime in that, I'm thinking about some folks like Joe and Kim, you guys over there at Heart of Appalachia. I don't know if you already have a podcast. Maybe you do, but what would it look like for you to have a podcast that's all about Southwest Virginia and tourism to kind of be a leading voice in that industry? That would be awesome. I think people would tune into that. Somebody is a notary. I think I saw that somewhere. Olivia, yes, that's cool. A soon to be open event venue. That's awesome. And a notary signing agent business. That's good. My dad is a notary, and he is moving a lot of things to digital right now, and he's got software and whatnot that is helping him move to digital. So I'm not sure if you're doing that or what, but something to think about. How you can continue doing that without being in person.
That's one that I've seen on Facebook multiple times since all this has started is requests for people. Hey, is anybody out there like a front porch notary?
Yeah.
There is a need. Oh, this is cool. Okay. So I'm just looking through the chat and stuff.
I think Amanda, you had a question. Well, first of all, yeah, Amanda mentioned experimenting with Facebook Live video for Abingdon tourism. And did you have good results? That's good to know. Glad that's working. And then she asked, I'd like advice on how to advertise live in advance. Just go for it or schedule a time and announce to your fans in advance.
Yeah. So the power of here's how when we see things that we're producing in our studio, live videos really kind of go viral or have more success. It's when the people who are involved in that, like if we're recording a podcast back here, we have 4 people around the table, and we broadcast all our podcasts live on our Facebook page. If each of those people takes out their phone and shares it, you would not believe the views and the extra reach that you get. And so even just having a few people out there, especially if you're on camera with somebody, if the person that you're chatting with or interviewing will also share that, you have no idea who you'll reach, because you're reaching their network then at that point too. I do think if you do have time to notify people before, to say, do a little announcement on Facebook that later this afternoon we'll be going live to talk about this person is going to be chatting with us. I do think that is helpful to kind of plant that seed and prime people to come back. And then also ask to share, just ask people to share your stuff. A lot of people will do it if you ask.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people will share simply because you almost reminded them in the post there to share. Sandy asked, how long should a podcast be? And I will let Leighton answer that because he's the expert on that. I will say that it varies, obviously, but I have a couple of filmmaking and acting podcasts that I subscribe to, and I tend to choose the shorter one typically more than the longer one, just simply because I'm like, well, I want to listen to this one because it sounds interesting, but I don't have an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to go with the shorter one. So that's from a consumer standpoint, not an expert standpoint, but I'm sure Leighton, you've probably got some thoughts on how long one should be.
Yeah. And I try to match up my recommendation with research. So I go in and look and see how our podcasts are performing. What I'll tell you that the magic number, and it's not a rule. So if you do end up starting a podcast, don't use this as a rule. This isn't a commandment, but it's just kind of a guideline. 40 minutes. 40 minutes is kind of the sweet spot. it's hard to be engaging and compelling and keep your energy level up for longer than 40 minutes. And I realize I'm saying that as a person who's been talking for 40 minutes. But it is, there's just kind of something about beyond that, unless it's really, really good, or you're switching things up and you have another segment, another guest coming in, something like that. It's hard to keep your energy up for very much longer. Now, of course, there's an exception to every rule. And I was doing some research on one of our clients yesterday, and her show, every time she goes over an hour, her numbers go up. I don't know why. But again, there's an exception to every rule. I just tend to think, if you go on Netflix and look for a comedy show, it's going to be what, Josh, 22 minutes?
Yeah. 22, maybe 28. Yeah.
Yeah. And then your hour-long shows are really, about 50 minutes. And so, I think those they time them that way for a reason. Netflix knows what they're doing. They know what works and doesn't. So that's a long answer to a short question. I think for us, 40 minutes tends to be about the magic number.
I think even I'll throw Drew in there since he's on here. He has a podcast called Marketing That Works. It's fantastic. And a lot of his stuff is 4, 5, 8 minutes. I mean, some of it goes long. He's got some that are 20 minutes and up there, but he's got a lot of podcasts that are very short. It's sort of like cut right to it. Let me give you, here's a marketing tip today in 5 minutes that's going to help you. Like and he's built a pretty good following too. So there's a lot of, it depends on what kind of podcast you're going to do, right? His is like marketing tips, like boom, here we go. He's got some longer ones where he's interviewing marketing experts. So I think just figuring out what you're going to do. And I think it takes a little bit of time to figure out what your podcast looks like. So after 5, 7, almost 10 episodes, if don't be discouraged if you haven't, built up a big audience. Like you got to kind of find your niche and keep going.
I love this question from Olivia. And I think probably this is geared towards you, Josh, but I'll throw in some 2 cents too. I'll let you go first, but I'll let you throw in. How do you find the balance between posting like you used to, a lot of funny stuff, kind of silly, slapsticky, versus the pandemic world, which is different? Olivia says, I've hesitated to post like I used to because I'm afraid of seeming insensitive. So what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, Olivia. I would say right now, humor is great. We could use some humor. I would say be funny, be silly, bring humor into the world because we could all use it. We've all had enough of the doom and gloom stuff. So let's absolutely be funny because that's what people want to see. If they want to see the serious talk, they're going to watch. I've got a bug in here. Got him. If you want to see the serious talk, turn on CNN, turn on the news, like go do that. But if you want to see, be entertained, if you want to see good stuff, then go to people like you and me and those who are creating funny content. So I'd say do it. Now you don't want to, if as far as being insensitive, you don't want to, turn your camera on and be like, COVID is stupid. It's not, you don't want to do that, right? That's insensitive. But if you want to just be funny, absolutely do it. I think the world needs it more now than ever. And people are going to watch your stuff because it's going to be like a respite for them away from all the other stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's spot on. My 2 cents there would be, just be mindful, and don't have it have somebody harmed on the other side of it. So don't punch down, like they say. Right. Self-deprecating stuff, stuff that's yes. pretty mainstream, I think is good, but it is a hard time. People are having hard times. So people are hungry for laughs. People really are hungry for laughs and entertainment and lighter things right now. So I would say go for it. But if it's costing somebody or it's targeted at somebody on the other side, then just watch that. Make sure you're not punching down.
Like Life in a Mask. Would that be okay? Yeah, that'd be great. I think that's such a relatable, I'm not sure what you do with it necessarily, but that's a relatable topic. Everyone knows what it's like to live in a mask. Just by, making humor around it doesn't mean that you're saying masks are stupid. It's just saying we're all experiencing life in a mask, and and we know we have to wear them, but it's okay to be funny about it. Absolutely. Yeah.
So Josh asked on his social media for ideas for some videos to make the other day, and I didn't submit it, Josh. I'll just give it to you here. I think of a video like Zoom Thanksgiving would be just fantastic with, I don't know, people are trying to shove, pass rolls through the camera. And I think there's just all kinds of stuff you could do there. So, all right, Sandy asked a great question. So is it possible or acceptable to do a podcast and have your guests be remote? Yes, and yes, and yes. Absolutely. And there's all kinds of tools to do that. Honestly, you can do it on Zoom. Like, we could grab the recording from this call and post it as a podcast. So Zoom has a recording feature. So you can record your calls, and then you can just pull the audio and post that as a podcast. So imagine, if there's some leader in your industry or somebody in your company that you want to interview, but they're, on the West Coast, or you get a chance to interview an author or a celebrity or something like that. Absolutely. You can do that remotely. You can do it on something as simple as Zoom. And then from there are other tools that get a little bit more podcasty, niche podcasty type. But yes, absolutely. You can record a call on Zoom just like this and grab that audio and post it. So remote is encouraged. A lot of people have built fantastic podcasts and even businesses off of doing remote interviews.
Excellent. You want to go to Catherine had a question in the Q&A there. I will read it out loud.
Okay.
We are a new 501c3, congratulations, and are researching development of a website. Looking for direction and seeking development assistance. Also, should our nonprofit be able to maintain our own website once developed? Board members are spread out from Bristol to Charlottesville area. Good questions there.
Yep, great question. And that's fantastic. We can, we definitely have, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just, I'm reading the question again. I'm kind of visual learner. I can see, tackle it better. Yeah. That's, easy peasy. That is, again, it's one of those things like we're talking about podcasting and making videos and all that stuff that, can seem overwhelming if your job is doing something else. But for those of us who work in the space, very easy. So if that's something that you need help with, reach out to me, reach out to Josh, and we'll get that tackled for you. That good?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say too, that, in terms of a website, I think, you've got different options there. You can have someone build it for you and then you manage it, or you can have them manage it. Either way. But Catherine, definitely, I think, reach out to us individually. We can probably answer that better, like with a phone call or something, so we can address your needs more specifically. But there are some the good thing about web design is that you really don't have to pay a fortune for web design anymore. You really don't. There's very affordable options that are good, that have great search engine capabilities, great looking templates, that will work fantastic for you guys. So happy to recommend some of those to you. And then, your website, again, it's just like, do you want to take the time to maintain it yourself, or do you want to just hire someone out, to do that? So I hope that helps you for now. Congrats on the nonprofit. Can't wait to see what you do.
All right. So I'm looking at my clock. It's 12:54. I don't want to, I just want to be mindful of everybody's time. And I'm scrolling through the chat here just to double check and see if we've got all the questions answered. And I think we do. But man, I'm looking through at the work y'all do, and wow. Good stuff. Like y'all are doing some interesting and cool stuff. So again, honored to be here. One thing I'll tell you, remember we asked the question about being comfortable on camera before, and I wanted to address that for people. And so I wrote a blog post about that. If you go to our blog and look for that, I walk through a couple strategies that'll just kind of help take some of the stress, some of the intimidation out of doing a live video. So if that's something that you want to tackle, I give you a very practical model that you can follow, that I follow sometimes when I am not feeling 100% confident to get me through. So Let's see. Okay. Well, again, I'd say I'll put this outline together, plug in those links to those tools that we talked about, and have that ready for you. Just go to marketstreet.media/class and let us know that that's something that you want delivered to your inbox, and we'll get that in your hands. So I'm going to step back unless there's anything else that any questions anybody has for me.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
That's right. Last
I'd say
chance forever.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. Really, really honored to get to spend an hour with you. I really appreciate it.
Well, Josh Leighton, thanks so much too I know you have so much on your plate, but for taking the time and sharing your knowledge with everyone today. And also thanks for everyone that joined us. I know you took time out of your schedule and hopefully you enjoyed a little lunch while you watch, but I really appreciate you participating. Now, we did record today's session, and it will be available for viewing on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel /Noon Knowledge. So you could go there, and I will note that on our YouTube channel, we have hundreds of videos up that are available on demand with lots of valuable information on a variety of topics. So you never have to be without not knowing. Of course, we all here, all the team of the New Knowledge Program and our guests are there to help, but that's something that you have access to at any time. Just a little plug, the next session will be held on December the 2nd, and kind of following with the COVID theme is this session will focus on keeping your business relevant post-COVID. And it will be led by Jenny Carlisle with Crafts on Main. Jenny, it was a winner of the Washington County Business Challenge earlier in the year, and she just opened her business when COVID hit. And, that business plan that she had worked to put together, well, part of that was out the window, and she had to really change her direction and what she was doing, and has done quite well. So she's going to share some of her experiences of how do you adapt, not only in COVID, but changes that could happen in your market, a competitor across the street or what have you. So I think that'll be an interesting session. That'll be on December the 2nd. And then, of course, we will continue up after the holidays and start back in January for the program. But thanks again, Josh Leighton. I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. And we will get you their contact information one way or the other, attendees, if you want to follow up. But that's all I have, unless you have something else you want to share.
That's all for me. Thank you guys very much. It's great to see you all again. And I hope that you got some good information from this session, and let us know if we can do anything for you.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.